Hello everyone. Welcome to the Teachers Tribe International Community. Who doesn't get butterfly in the stomach talking about IB evaluation? It is indeed stressful, daunting, and nerve-wracking experience. Thankfully, we have IB coordinators who are trained by IB and they make the process not only easy but also enjoyable. Today we have Harsha Gandhi. Once again, I would say, because she had already taken a session on this, and to take it forward, she's going to today talk about IB evaluation process. A few reminders before we get started. A link is going to appear towards the end of the session, which will enable you to get a certificate for your presence. If you have any question, you can use the chat feature here. Let's get started. Welcome, Harsha.
Thank you, Anila. Thank you so much for this warm welcome. Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is doing great today. And let's get started. I am just a little extra excited for getting my part two with the IB evaluation. So, once again, everyone, if you have any questions with regards to any discussion that you would like to do with me, I request everyone to put your extra comments in the chat box and we shall take it towards the end of the session. L- later to this, if you would like to get in touch with me, my mail ID and my presentation is going to be shared with the Teachers Tribe International community, so definitely they'll be posting it ahead. And I would like to thank the Teachers Tribe International community once again to give me this opportunity and this platform to present myself here. So, yeah, let's get started. Coming to the self study questionnaire, in today's session, we are going to look at how to go about with the self study questionnaire. Well, a little just about how I started as a coordinator and grew with this evaluation. I was totally new to this process, and of course, the self study questionnaire also differed in a different form. So I'll take you through. The self study questionnaire is a key document in the evaluation process. It gives the possibility to your school to evaluate itself, assess each practice, and plan your future development. This is why all stakeholders have to be the part of the self study. When we say all stakeholders, the stakeholders include not only your students and your parents, they also include the administration staff in your school, and the teaching staff, of course, is a very big part of it. Schools are allowed to organize their self study as they want, but we recommend having four committees reflecting the format of our program standards and practices. Earlier, as well, in our previous self study questionnaire, we used to have our different committees. So, in this PSP 2020, it is strongly recommended to have four committees that reflect the format of our new PSP. Let's look at it. So, program standards and practices helping schools grow. Let's watch something. So, over here, schools are allowed to organize their self study as they want. Strongly recommended to have four committees as reflecting to the format of our standards and practices. If you could see here, we have our triangle, that's the school context and IB philosophy. We have our learning in the center, which is surrounded by purpose, environment, and culture. This clearly represents the conditions required for success. Who will be responsible? How will it be achieved? How will it be evidenced? Well, achieving something has become a little more simpler, but evidencing is something very important that we all need to be pretty clear about how are we making it visible and making it easy for ourselves. What is the intended outcome and why? That means the impact on student learning. So let's go through this. Now, if you all have joined my previous session, you must remember that I have discussed about the preliminary review. So I will just quickly go to the next slide that talks about self-study questionnaire. Now, over here, we have our self-study questionnaire. Is this visible, Anila? Miss Anila, if you could just tell me if this is visible or do I need to increase the font over here?
I can see the link right now. Two links I can see.
Okay, so can you see the presentation that says self-study questionnaire?
Not now. I think you have to, I'll put the screen down and then you can show it again through the Chrome feature that we just discussed.
Sure. I'm sure it's visible now.
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. All right, so coming to the self-study, over here, if you can clearly see point number C, the self-study questionnaire is a key document in the evaluation process, which we have already seen in my previous slide. Now over here, the self-study questionnaire is hyperlinked. So if you click on this, it will take you to the template of the self-study questionnaire. Over and above, I have also shared the direct link to my IB for the questionnaire. Now, why do we need this? What is the requirement? Let's see that. Schools are invited to collect the feedback from students and parents by including them in the committees or by creating surveys. Sometimes it is not possible to include the students in all the committees and keep them together or with the parents. So to make it a little more simpler, we can create surveys. Schools are free to choose the ways that they work in their own context. So, when it's clearly mentioned that schools are free to choose the way they want to work in their own context, it can clearly be creating survey as it's mentioned. Over and above the survey, we can also have those regular meetings with group of parents in our premises by collaborating and understanding their understanding of the school. So the self-study questionnaire is organized something like this. Point number A, you assess each practice for each program that you teach. Now let's look at purpose number 1 over here. The governing body and school leaders articulate a purpose for learning that aligns with the IB philosophy and mission. Now, to break this first practice, purpose 1.1, the school develops a mission, vision, and strategy that reflect the IB mission and philosophy. So, over here, the school has to have their own mission and vision that is in alignment with the IB mission and IB philosophy. Every IB school usually has that. So, that is the evidence that needs to be put up for this particular practice. Purpose 1.2. The school develops a mission, philosophy, and slash or strategy that includes a holistic approach to education that goes beyond academic development and encourages awareness beyond the individual and immediate community. So, over here, the school has already developed a mission, philosophy, and a school strategy that includes a holistic approach to education. So, for this, how the students and the teachers are taking this ahead in their daily learning and teaching, which includes a holistic approach to the education. So these are the small engagements that at times the teaching community takes it up in the classrooms or outside the classrooms. So the evidences need to be recorded for this one. Now, for example, if you are going for a whole school evaluation, a continuum evaluation, so the I beg your pardon. So, if the school is going for the whole school evaluation, that's a continuum evaluation, respective coordinators need to fill in these forms over here. Now, for example, a PYP coordinator, requirements are in place. Yes, of course, they are always in place because of IB school cannot go in for any evaluation without a mission and vision in place. So, you are just going to place a Y over there. And if you feel that, okay, our mission and vision is already in place, but we are unable to achieve it through our holistic approach to the education, or we are still in the process. So, over there, you will put a tick mark to developing. But if you are a school over and above 5 years, then definitely you have already developed and there is room for more. And if you feel, even if you're a school who is 5 years and above, and you have highly developed it with the evidences in place, please feel free to put a tick mark over here. So, this is just a detail if you can just read. Now, if the practice is not in place, that is very rare, but sometimes there are schools who are unable to put the practice in place. So, over there, please add N, that stands for no, in the second column, and create an action plan to explain how will you ensure that the practice is in place before the evaluation visit. No tick needed in the other columns. Once again, I'll repeat, if you are placing an N that stands for no in the second column, you will have to be ready with an action plan to explain how will you achieve this practice in place before the evaluation visit, and there is no requirement to put a tick in any of the other columns. So a lot of coordinators do keep asking that, Harsha, there are no mention about action plan in this PSP 2020, and sometimes they do talk about action plan, so it's a little confusing for them. So let me tell you that yes, this PSP 2020 does not require action plan, but only if there is a no, you need to be ready with it. And this action plan cannot be made alone by the PYP coordinator. The coordinator has to be collaborating with the whole school principal and not only the secondary principal. So, only then this action plan gets ready and it's taken forward. Point number B. Now, if you could see in your point A, you have this table, right? So, for every practice, you will be having this table below which you will have another table to assess each standard for each program you teach. Now let's look at it. Environments providing essential structures, systems, and resources. Now, this table is talking about leadership and governance. The leadership and governance of IB World Schools create and sustain high quality learning environments. Now, once again, over here, if you see, there are four columns over here after your practice mentioned. Shows notable development, shows development beyond requirements, offers opportunity for further development, requires significant development. So, school is doing a self assessment over here. Once you are ready with this table A, you come to table B. So I'll just repeat this. To do so, please step back from looking at each practice separately and look at the standard as a whole. I repeat, to do so, you will have to look at each practice separately, but look at the standard as a whole and then assess by a tick if it shows notable development, shows development beyond requirements, offers opportunity for further development, or requires significant development. Once this is completed, you come to point number C under the same table. So you share 1 to 3 major achievements and 1 to 3 major challenges that your school has faced for this standard. Please develop your explanation through a short paragraph. Now, when you are mentioning any major achievements relating to this standard during this period under review, please be a little mindful that if you are mentioning achievement and if you're simultaneously mentioning challenges as well, so there's somewhere a contradictory. So I would suggest that if you are mentioning two achievements, there could be, one major challenge that you can highlight over there with a description and an understanding with the evidences what did not fruitfully uh, was noticed, or you could take it ahead with your team. You don't have to evidence your choices by sharing documents with us. Very important. You don't need to share your documents time and again. The evaluation team will look at your self study and compare it with what they see in your school to provide you with their own assessment for each standard. Now, over here, when the evaluation is remote, so in the remote evaluation, the requirements by the IB team are a little different. They ask you for a video which includes every aspect of holistic development that's been achieved or under process at any school. But if the evaluation is happening physical, which we all are expecting soon in India, so if the evaluation is having in a physical environment over there, the evaluation team will look at your self study and compare it with what they see in your school. For example, library. If you have mentioned about the library in your self study, so they will look at every aspect of your library, whether what you have mentioned in your self study matches with what your library is up to the mark. Coming to the development plan. Now, the development plan, that is the part 2 in the self-study questionnaire, and it can be found as a separate document. Now, before I go to the development plan, I would like to add on a few things with regards to your self study questionnaire, that when I mentioned that you have to have your four committees as per the standards, please make sure that you are dividing your teaching community equally, on the basis of their categories. So, for example, if you have a very big team of performing arts and visual arts, let's for example, six or seven with different instruments, please make sure that the new and the seasoned teachers are in separate committees, not in the same one. So there has to be an equal balance of overall new teachers with the seasoned teachers. There may be times that, yes, coordinators do keep approaching that, Harsha, now how do we go about? There are teachers coming in, teachers moving out, and we cannot stop them. Of course, the only option is that you have to be a little mindful and get in IB trained teachers, which is possible and not possible at times. Not every school is in a condition to hire IB trained teachers. So in that case, when you're hiring a new teacher, please make sure that you immediately get her registered for cat 1, making PYP happen for implementing agency. And that's how you can take your committees ahead. In each and every committee, there has to be one PLT member. So you will have to have one leadership in every committee. Try and if you're a small school, I know the teachers will be repeated and the PLT will be repeated. But if you are having a bigger team of the teaching community, please make sure that your PLT is equally divided into all the committees. Coming next to our program development plan. Now, this is the part 2 in the self study questionnaire, and it can be found as a separate document on my IB. The development plan is a key part of improvement cycle in a school. School improvement cycle. Why do you think we need this? Well, we all need an improvement, and school definitely has a big room of improvement time and again. Yeah. So we develop strategies to address the priorities. We take action to develop the program. We also identify the priorities for improvement before we develop them to take an action. After taking an action, we reflect upon the progress and the impact. So, this is a cycle. This takes time. It is not a one day cup of coffee that we can just complete this. This does take a lot of time, and the school program development plan starts right beginning. And let me just remind you that if you have missed out my first session, I had mentioned that self study starts 18 months prior to the evaluation journey. Now, as a school, you are required to find one, two, three development plans that run simultaneously. Each of them can have a different duration, but the idea is that as soon as a development plan is completed, the school creates a new one with the information gathered while completing the previous development plan. For the evaluation purposes, the school shares one development plan that has been completed and reflected on during the 5 years that are reviewed at this specific evaluation. Now, there are four steps for a development plan. First of all, we all, as coordinators, need to understand from a 360-degree review that which is the right area of focus. Now, as a school, you know what you want to focus, what's your attention, how can you improve, what is the impact going to be on your students, whether it's going to be positive in future or no. So the school has to brainstorm as a team and find an area of focus to work on. So over here, when I mention a school, it's not just coordinator, it's the coordinator and the teaching community along with the principal. So just to gist that in enhanced PYP, the coordinator is also a part of step by step at every evaluation committee. So using the program standards and practices as a tool to plan the development plan itself. Now, once the area of focus has been selected, you create your development plan. To do so, you choose the practices that will be the best tool for your area of focus to be a success. Now, here's the process. Now, before I go for this process, I would like to share that in my previous evaluation journey, which I have just completed in the month of February 2022. So, in my program developmental plan in our previous school, we had taken well being and ATLs as our two practices. So, over there, we had these set conditions. We chose who. So when we chose who, over there, our well-being community, that's our counselor, our special educators, and our teachers were in the picture, along with the ATL coordinator, along with our PLT. Now choose how. How do we choose that? Somewhere we as an organization, we felt that we could make it better in these two areas, and so that's how we chose it. So now I'll just take you through the steps of the PDP. Choose one or two practices that set the conditions for the development plan to be implemented. Choose who is responsible in the development plan. Each practice includes who is in charge. The coordinator does, the school does, the teacher does. Choose one or two practices that explain how the developmental plan will be achieved and evidenced. Choose one or two practices that indicate why the development plan has been made. Now, over here, why do we need a plan when we know that somewhere our school does lack in that practice? The why can be a goal, an outcome, or a reason for the practices being grouped together. Please remember that in a development plan, you need to use at least two different colors to ensure that your school's ecosystem is seen as a whole. Now, program standards and practices are separated in four colors: the purpose in yellow, learning in blue, culture in gray, and environment in green. So here's an example for a school that shows building a strong continuum as this area of focus. So if you can see, there have been conditions and why does the school implement, there's a how and there's a who. So this is the area that they want to build a strong continuum. How are they choosing to do it? It's clearly mentioned here. So who does it? The school includes on its pedagogical leadership team an IB trained program coordinator who is empowered to facilitate successful program implementation. Teachers promote effective relationships and purposeful collaboration to create a positive and dynamic learning community. Now, why? Why do you think the school required this? Because the school plans and implements a coherent curriculum that organizes learning and teaching within and across the years of its IB programs. Now, how do you think the school must have achieved? So let's read that. Teachers focus on conceptual understanding to support students in developing their ideas. Students and teachers use feedback to improve learning, teaching, and assessment. So, as you can see, the first step is to choose the right practice. Then you have to reflect upon the impact of the development plan will have for your students, the evidence you will gather to assess the successful development plan, the activities you plan to do, as well as the research you may use as tools for your reflection. Now, this is just a detailing of what I have just discussed. You can go through it once I share my presentation. So, over here, this process, again, I repeat that this process is not just a coordinator's documentation work, but this process is a collaboration involving school leaders, staff, and the broader school community where possible. Implementing the development plan. Once this step is done, is known as the planning in the development plan, which the template is hyperlinked over here. You can click it, or if it's not clickable, you can find it very easily in my IB. The school has to implement its development plan. So this is usually between 6 months and 3 years. It may be even longer if needed. So over here, I would just like to highlight that this is usually a duration between 6 months and 3 years before the evaluation visit. One can start the PDP right before the self study questionnaire. Please understand the self study questionnaire needs to start 18 months prior, but the PDP can be started earlier than the SSQ. It may be even longer if needed for a school. It depends from school to school. Reflecting on the development plan. Once the development plan is completed, you are invited to reflect on the process, its challenges, and its results. The development plan template includes questions to guide your reflection. How did you learn what the impact of the work was? What data or evidence did you gather? Were there any changes in the practices you chose as part of your initial area of focus? The development plan is a key part of the evaluation process because your school reflects on what is learned from engaging in this process and how it can be applied to future development plans. The evaluation team will discuss these challenges and opportunities you pointed out and give some possible next steps to reflect on. So, I'll just go back to my main presentation. Anila, you will have to tell me if this is visible.
I can see the Word document right now.
All right, just a minute. I'll just reshare. Is the presentation visible now?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So, my
Uh,
dear friends,
Sorry, I can see the link right now. The
yes, you can see
resource.
the link, right? The resource links.
Yes.
All right. So, my dear friends, now this is the resource links which I have just taken you all through for the PSP eval. The link below is the link for the template of self-study questionnaire on my IB. If you just click on this link in my presentation, it will take you there directly. And I would give citation to resources.ibo.org where I have referred to most of my requirements for today. And a very big thank you for being a beautiful audience today. And any questions for me?
I have a couple of questions here. Um,
Yeah.
so I think this was updated one. Next.
Okay. So I can see a question over here. What tools the committees can use to reflect on the practices? Well, it is totally dependent on them. They can use any tool. It's not mandatory to use any specific tool on how they are going to reflect. They can record their practices. They can reflect on these things in a form of a Word Excel as well. Well, I don't have it on my presentation, but surely I can add that to my presentation later during the day and share it across with the community over here. And it will just make it easy for all of you to refer to it and take it ahead.
Yeah, sure. Next here.
Okay, I see Fatima Sheikh asking me if you selected two PDP, ATL and well-being, which one you presented to the eval team? Good question, Fatima. So over there, I have clearly mentioned in my presentation today that we are supposed to take two practices. So we had presented both of them, ATL as well as well-being. Both of them were presented to the eval team along with the evidences, and ours was a remote evaluation where we had to put in the drive links in our document where they would, view the drive links and then get back to us for a questionnaire. Can you
Here is
explain?
another question.
Yeah, is it this one, Anila? Can you explain a bit on action research, which is an optional section in PDP template? What exactly goes there? Well, action research, as I mentioned, that it is not a mandatory one, it is an optional one in the PDP template. What exactly goes there? Now, that depends from school to school on what area you need a development in your school. So, for example, if your school is a PYP school, let's say, and the inquiry is happening, but it's not up to the mark. The inquiry cycle is visible, but it's not going in the same way. So probably you can take that as, one of your one of your practices in your action plan to take up the inquiry in a more systematic manner. And how do you want to go about it? So for this, you will have to sit with your whole school principal.
Thank you. I think
Any
we have
more
answered
questions,
questions.
Anila?
I don't see any more question right now. Thank you so much, Harsha. And this is a certificate for the session. Thank you so much. It was really insightful. And all the educators here, as I promised, the exit ticket is here. You can check the link now.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anila. I would like to thank the Teachers Tribe International community once again for giving me this opportunity to complete my session of my previous standards and practices. And yes, it is really nice, and I feel wonderful to share my experiences with my upcoming coordinators because collaboration is the key to success in IB. Thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of this session. Thank you, Anila.
And we end here.